a bit Jamaican like the summer. That's the location's strength. There are terraces, windows, a garden, and the color red. At night and in the evening, there's a lovely light that inspires partying, so I work a lot with the red.
François wanted to really highlight the dining room. The dining area stands out first and foremost, so I tried to do something a bit electric with the colors. We're in autumn. We have some really great products during this period, and so I seek out contrasts of colors and of textures.
Ever since the economic crisis, we've really had to make some cuts. The companies that have the resources don't want to be perceived as spending too much money. So it was a constraint for us that turned out to be quite an interesting tool. Louis worked on flavors, so he stopped using lobsters and scallops. He went for herbs, milkweed, which cut the costs of our canapé appetizers in half. And yet flavor-wise, it's just as strong as before when the budgets were greater. There's no point in starting a cocktail buffet coldly and suddenly. The room needs to be warmed up. The guests need to drink a bit. The room needs to fill up. We observe from event to event what works and what doesn't. We'll have the female personnel walk in and go around the room with the same menu. Instead of receiving the first canapé and staying hungry in a state of hypoglycemia or insecurity, we receive the menu. Once we read it, we think, oh, there'll be all that tonight. We're reassured. We're also given the impression that there's a staff taking care of us. They tell us good evening. It's theatrical. We set it all up. I often imagine myself in the client's shoes. I always wonder, when he gets home tonight, what's going to happen? Will he open his fridge and make himself a sandwich? I always ask myself that question. So all while respecting our budget constraints, our mission is to feed everyone. On the other hand, at the end of the evening, will there be any wasted food? Certainly not. All of the trouble we went through during the months of preparation, meetings, discussions, for such a long time. It's the evening when the party will finally take place. When we bite into a canapé, all of the work that went into this tiny mouthful must be explosive. It must have flavors and textures. It must inspire reflection. Otherwise, if we went through all that trouble for nothing to happen when we take a bite, well, our mission remains incomplete. Our work has not been done.
Turin is a very chocolatey city and has been for a very long time. In the 16th century, the capital of Piedmont received its first cocoa beans. They were used well, notably in the invention of gianduja, a delicious mix of cocoa and hazelnuts. The heir of this noble tradition, Guido Gobbio, keeps it going today, all while giving it a modern touch.
Gianduja was born around 1830 when it was a trouble to import cocoa from the Americas, and someone gets a raw material from our region, from Piedmont. It was Piedmont hazelnuts, yes. And try to put inside the recipe this material instead of cocoa. And it was lucky because this was a perfect flavor for a new kind of chocolate that now is known worldwide. Yes. That is gianduja from Piedmont.
Arrivederci. Grazie signora, buongiorno.
50% of our production is gianduja. For gianduja, there was one shade that is the classic gianduja triangular 10 grams. And in 1995, we start to make the small one, only 5 grams. That is easier to eat. So we have two receipts of Turinot. The name is Turinot. One is the classic receipt, cocoa, hazelnut, sugar, and milk. And the ancient receipt, the name is Turinot Maximo. that is without milk, only cocoa, hazelnut, and sugar. The future of my company is only for high-quality chocolate, but we need the technology to control the quality every day. 50% of the production is with technology, but the other 50% is absolutely handmade.
How do you try new flavors? How do you make this evolve as well?
Generally, during the night, when I wake up in the morning very early, and I remember some flavors from some testing that I try. For example, the salt was born in 2007, when it was very fashion to put salt in chocolate. So I try to taste some salt and chocolate, and I don't feel the right balance the chocolate needs. So I try to make salt with gianduja and not with bitter chocolate, and for add the softening of the chocolate, I add some olive oil, a little bit of olive oil.
Is macaron a new thing in Torino?
Yes, we started last month to make macaron because it was one macaron producer from France that opened a new shop in Torino. So we make a small macaron, very small macaron, with tasting typical of Torino or Piemonte, like chocolate, like hazelnut. And we are trying to offer to Italian customer a new version of macaron.
I'm going to use the seaweed and lettuce gazpacho to help garnish my dish. Afterward, I'll add the fowl, which is warmed up slightly in the codfish sauce. It will be very tender and tasty. There are the small white beans that go in after some fried shellfish. And there are periwinkles and cockles, prisoners to a small sheet of buckwheat, which will add some crunch to the dish. It's like a small treat. I'm adding a few raw cockles and periwinkles and a bit of stonebreaker herb, which we can generally find at low tide. So you can go and look for it there. It's like having a small seaside herb garden. There's some beefsteak plant leaves. It's a bit peppery, with small hints of hot peppers. On top, I'll add the sauce from the shellfish, which brings back hints of the seaside garden aspect. And I'll finish with my codfish topping, which is very creamy and works like a sauce. There it is. Our dish is finished and ready to serve.
Events, installations, cocktails. Culinary design has now made its way into evening party settings. But the discipline, which remains mysterious and often misunderstood, has some trouble finding its place in the world of gastronomical meals. This mission has now been undertaken, though, by designer Germain Bourret in his menus for Veuve Clicquot Champagne. Along with other great chefs, he has skillfully developed dishes that evoke the history and know-how of the great champagne producing house. How did your encounter with Veuve Clicquot come about?
They actually wanted to rewrite, to come up with tasting menus for their vintages. The brand is certainly deeply rooted in its search for modernity in regards to creation and so on. So it's true that working on culinary design for them was a logical next step to take. So I elaborated concepts for dishes that speak about the wine, that speak about the land, that speak about the expectations of a good vintage. We always question the reciprocal position of the chef and the designer. For me, the idea is really that there is a co-authorship, and that in the end, when we see the dish, we don't know who has done what. It's a true coming together.
Yes, yes, it's taking shape. I like setting things nicely. So you have the seawater jelly, the lobster, the special one, the langoustines, a few sprigs of cress. Germain, shall we go?
The idea behind this dish is really the land meeting the vineyard. And we're really playing with the wine's ambivalence between its mineral and very iodized sides. So not only the sea products, but the water too will play and overplay with the briny side, with the wine. So we're pairing this dish with a 2002 vintage. I have three keys, three main keys, if it must be summed up. They are the keys that allow me to work. Either I work in designing the context, the tasting context, like set design that tells a story and transports the consumer to a certain ambiance. We'll work on the support, truly on the plate, which in itself will speak through aromas, by stirring, for instance. Or we'll even work on the product, either in selecting it or elaborating it.
For the second recipe, we'll present you with veal sweetbread, chanterelle mushrooms, and rat potatoes. To symbolize the rosé side a bit, we'll add a bit of red beet juice to our veal sweetbread sauce. The aim of the dish is really for it to speak about the 15% of bouzy that is added to white wine to create Veuve Clicquot's vintage rosé. Here, obviously, we'll use a square, which is part of the graphic codes. Next, the idea is really to recreate the act of blending wines. The consumer will really take 15% of bouzy and pour the red wine into the white. It makes the mashed potatoes totally pink. Up until now, we've set up menus in houses where the waiters were available and attentive enough to explain each dish. Because the dish is truly unique. When we show up and taste the three champagnes, there are gestures that will communicate the first aromas and fragrances for themselves. And then obviously the wines evolve depending on the tasting temperature. Here, with this dessert, we really come back to the construction of champagne. It's really a metaphor for the elaboration of champagne. We go for a very dry intensity with just dried apricot. So for the image, we'll oppose the rustic side and the elaborate, sophisticated side. So here's the dessert, a true metaphor for these vintages.
Is culinary design catered only to the world of luxury?
No, because nowadays I'm beginning to work with industrials. So we're beginning to level out these experiences and desires with industry leaders. But it is true that, like in every domain of research and creation, we're often sought out by some of the most well-known companies. They'd like to manage their image and have the budget to do so. We'd like to be more and more accessible to as many people as possible. That's truly our ambition.
In the genes of this young French brand, there are all the keys to success. ancestors who worked in the sugarcane industry, an irreproachable work ethic, and above all, a co-founder who was once the artistic director of a famous design agency. The result is a range of tasty products packaged stunningly with graphics that are extremely well designed and that vary depending on the type of product. More than any other room in the home, the kitchen can speak about the lifestyles of a time period and its social and technological changes. This is what the MoMA demonstrates in this exhibition that shows the transformation of the kitchen throughout the 20th century, and in turn, the transformation in women's lives.
Last year, the museum acquired a complete Frankfurt kitchen of 1926, designed by Grete Schütte-Lohotzky. And we then began to explore all the kitchen and food-related material in MoMA's collection, in film, in photography, sculpture, and of course, in architecture and design. The Frankfurt kitchen, for me, really distills all the principles of modern thinking. It was really about part of a much larger vision about designing a new way of living. You can see here many of the features that made the Frankfurt kitchen famous in architectural circles around the world. For instance, this compact arrangement between the sink, preparation area, and the stove. But this fold-down ironing board here, which would actually rest on the sink. And here was the preparation area where you got the natural light from the window and a hatch which could be raised so that you could put your vegetable peelings there and then quickly remove the waste with this chute. And similarly, these pouring bins here could store a variety of dried goods.
These revolving corner shelves make it possible to store the heavy and frequently used foods near working level. They are roomy enough to hold all of the staple supplies used here.
There's a tremendous range of innovation in so many areas of design. So we wanted to highlight the redesign of a kitchen handle for kitchen utensils can involve as much innovation and product development and design thinking as the design of a complete kitchen unit.